I'm here with award-winning authors C.S.E. Cooney and Carlos Hernandez, and we are here today to talk about their Kickstarter for their RPG game, Negocios Infernales. I'm Dave, and this is the one and only RPG Rundown. Negocios Infernales is a diceless, GMless role-playing game. And I'm very curious about what that means, and I'm sure that we'll talk more about it. I want to mention first, I want to congratulate you both. I know that Claire has won a World Fantasy Award and was nominated for another one, which is wonderful. I've known Claire a long time, maybe 24 years, off and on.
Maybe 15. Yeah, I would say, almost 20 for sure.
Yeah, knowing well, maybe 15. We were acquaintances early on, at the turn of the century, I think we can say now, at Twilight Tales back in Chicago in those days. It's just been great to watch you succeed, and I get a lot of joy out of seeing that.
Thank you.
Carlos has written the Sal and Gabby book series, which I understand, if I'm allowed to mention, has been optioned by Disney. Is that correct?
It has been. It was optioned a few years ago.
Okay.
I'll just say, keep going, Disney.
All right. Well,
you can do it. I believe in you.
Got it. Okay, that's what I get for using Wikipedia as a source. I read I read a mention of Disney there, and they made it almost sound like it was going to enter production soon. But that's still awesome.
Yeah. It has not been greenlit, so maybe
that's
a distinction. Yeah,
that's still amazing. I mean, that's still a hell of an accomplishment. I'm not going to downplay that one bit. But we're here to talk about your game. I'm excited to hear about it. It is card-based, but the cards work. The impression I have, and you can fill us all in, a little bit more tarot-like in a way.
100%.
Okay, tell me about it.
So, maybe the best way to do it is actually to show you a card.
Sure.
So I'll just go ahead and I'll just share my screen here in just a moment, as soon as I figure things out again. But yeah, when I share my screen here, what you'll be able to see is basically the Roll20 instance of Negocios Infernales that we've created to be able to play online.
Nice.
And so what you see here on the board here are the 7 cards that talk about the suits of the cards. So in our deck, it's a 70-card deck, 7 suits, and each suit corresponds to something that maketh a human being human. So I'll draw a card here just so you can ponder its mysteries here. This one's rated like PG-13, so I'll say, this is like, it's just a little ghoulish and a little, Interview with the Vampire-ish. So, just keep that in mind. But so as you ponder this card, I'll tell you that the suit here, you can tell by the border, is the blood of life, sangre. And so when you get this card, you can use the suit to start inspiring your response to it. And here's what it says: loyalty, affiliation, kith, kin, connection, sacrifice and duty. Some ideas are worth dying for. The desire to be moral, even though you you fall short so very, very often.
Or you are bleeding out. Get help.
Okay, so the border of the card, can we say it's like a context for what we're seeing? A more general context for the stuff in the middle. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what are we doing with this card? Is this, you said something that made me think this is like a character creation phase.
It is a character creation phase.
Great.
So what we're going to do is we're going to draw 4 cards of different suits in order to determine our character's motivation, the role that they play in this Second World Fantasy Spanish Inquisition court. So anything from, Minister of War to Chamber Pot Changer. And then we're going to determine what magic they bargained for. We should talk about the background of the game within it, but this is a game of infernal bargains after all. And finally, what awful doom awaits you? What self-fulfilling prophecy of terribleness is going to be part of your future, either near or far?
One of the suggestions, we give a whole list of samples just in case, but the cards help inspire you to come up with your own. But one of my favorite that he wrote was, for the dooms, like, your teeth come alive and start eating your other teeth. Which I think is hilarious. What a great doom. But it could be anything. It's like your hair starts whispering to you and you believe everything it says. It could be anything.
Right. Or, you turn anything to stone that you stir at for more than 3 seconds. So like you can just use lots of different creative stuff, and that's what we love. So, just to take a step back for a second, the best part of role playing, to my mind, is the wild stuff you could not have imagined happening. Those zany moments that happen in all role playing games where the rules, reality, and your own personalities collide in order to form this magical off the chain moment. And so this game emphasizes this. So here we have a card. You're now trying to establish your character's motivation. You've got this suite of meanings associated with sangre, but Claire, if you were going to do a motivation for the artist would possess you, what would you do? What off the top of your head right now?
So motivation is like what I think about every morning as soon as I wake up, what I go to bed thinking about, like what is my driving force in life. And we've got a woman, like the obvious answer would be she wants to create the like ultimate piece of art, the art to end all art. But let's go a little deeper because that's like the first obvious thing. Her motivation is so she went to art school as a child. It was her driving passion. She worked really hard to be there. And a teacher of hers told her that she'd never amount to anything, like humiliated her in front of her fellow students. And she knew it was a class thing, that she was poor and he didn't think she belonged there because it should only be for well-educated students. So he kind of humiliated her out of school after she'd worked so hard to be there. And I think that her driving motivation is not only to become a great artist in spite of this, without any of the infrastructure of the privileged artists of the city, but to bring down this teacher and expose him and his bad pedagogy to the world and start a new art institute that is funded by the state and free for all. That's her motivation.
Wow.
Whereas I might say, I want to be a surgeon. And that's it.
I tend to write like novels, and then some people just do bullet points or like surgeon. They'll just write one word, and all of those ways are fine. People take as much or as little time as they need, as long as whatever they write inspires their own role play.
Right. So you'll draw 3 more cards here, and they'll fill out what alter ego you have in the court of Reina Resoluta when you're not doing wizardy things and you're not being called into action. And then what magic you decided was so valuable to your life that you would put your own immortal soul in peril according to your own worldview. Because again, this takes place in a sort of like surrogate inquisition. And then surrogate inquisition, and you have a great deal of Catholic guilt.
Surrogate Catholic guilt.
Yeah. Right. You think that making this bargain has damned you, has caused you to forfeit your soul. So you think a very bad thing is going to happen to you, but you know what it is to strike these infernal bargains. You're not going to let them decide. You're going to get in writing exactly what's going to happen.
And of course, it's all cosmic irony, because the people that the wizards are bargaining with for powers, who they think are devils, are really like very benevolent aliens who just want to stop the Inquisition and like help humanity join the cosmic consciousness. And the aliens were like, dude, we would have given you all this stuff for free. And the humans are like, no, you are devils. I need to be doomed. I will tell you what I deserve.
Got it.
Which mechanically works later in the game. You can activate your doom to sort of save your country if it comes to that point in the game. And that gets really fun, because whatever you doomed yourself with, you have to like live with and play with the rest of the game.
Interesting. Fascinating. I want to talk more about the frame story of the aliens, because that's quite unique as an explanation of what's going on in the setting. That's a really new and fun idea to me. I haven't seen that in an RPG before, where it's like, oh, by the way, none of this is real because I'm getting this sparks something I like a lot about any game that I look at that's new to me, is if it sparks a lot of different associations in an exciting way. Like I recognize it, but I don't. It's new, if that makes sense. And the way that these cards spark ideas remind me a little bit of Mysterium, if you've ever played that board game. It's got this strange and surreal art. And
It was one of our inspirations.
oh
It's
wow,
one
okay.
of my favorite games. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
Mysterium and therefore Dixit, which we
Yes.
think was something that inspired Mysterium. We think that
Yes.
this is part of like a long, fabulous tradition, including tarot. But yeah, I love Mysterium. I love the board games. I was never much of a game player as an adult. As a child, I was.
Hmm.
So Carlos really wanted me to be an RPG fan, and I never quite was
Wow.
yet. And then so he started me with board games. I was like, oh, well, you know what I really like? A board game where you can see the game ending as you're playing it. That's really relaxing. Like, and
Oh.
with Mysterium, they have like a clock that counts down and you
Hmm.
advance on the board. And so, and yet it's all very, the mechanic is empathy, is the ability to read the ghost's kind of patterns of thought and
Hmm.
match their image to your image to find the right answer with no speaking. I just love that so much. I loved it. So when he's like, I want to get her to play role-playing games, what do I do? I know, I'll give her a mechanic very similar to Mysterium. And
Nice.
then love it. And it's true. It worked. And now I play D&D. Yada, yada, yada. Now I'm a dice goblin.
Nice. Mysterium kind of has that frame story going too, in a way. You're a psychic that can only communicate in images to explain what's going on. In that case, though, I think the receiver understands what's happening. And here we have, dare we say, mortals. I suppose the aliens are mortal too, but human beings who don't.
Right, right. Actually, the aliens are offering immortality as a bonus if you actually prove
Oh,
yourself worthy of their magic. So you actually had the right instinct. Yeah,
oh,
the
interesting.
mortals are, that their job is something that they don't even understand. So dramatic irony is like one of the core different aspects of this game.
And
Yeah.
all the players have perfect information. The players always know what's going on with themselves, their other players. They've built the whole world together collaboratively. And they're also kind of like they get to play at the last stage of the game. They get to play the aliens who are judging the humans.
I
I
was
think
going to ask
like
about
some
that.
part of what the aliens are doing are like, oh, there's aliens are like, oh, these humans. Part of what their problem is that they're afraid of death. Maybe if we give them the option for immortality, they'll just like clean up their act a bit, but it doesn't work that
It
way.
doesn't work that way. Yeah, so
Interesting.
at the end of the game, we have a thing called the alien epilogue where you play the alien caseworker who gave you your powers. So whatever powers your wizard got, your alien caseworker is now who you inhabit, and you review the performance of your own character.
Which is a
Cool.
nice way to debrief from the whole game, like to kind of
Oh,
look at it
yeah.
from the distance, your flying saucer, and be like, how did they do? How did we do, as
Right.
players? How did our people, did we join the cosmic consciousness? Probably not.
It's interesting you've made that in game too, because debriefing is an increasingly popular thing, especially on like start playing when you're playing a lot with people you haven't met before. It's not really a safety tool, but it's similar. The debrief allows you to separate a little bit from what happened and realize, well, we just made this up and it's okay. Like, it's interesting that you have an in-game way to do that. That feels very satisfying. Um, can you tell me a little bit about conflict in a couple of ways? Number one, if I create a character, what is it that my character needs to do or overcome? So conflict in a story sense. And then I'm also curious about direct conflict, like courtly intrigue, who wins, or if there's physical combat, how do you determine who comes out on top if someone tries to kill you? How does that work?
Yay!
Love it. Yeah. So I'm going to share the screen again, and we're going to teleport to a different section here. I'll show you the plots that we have. But actually, if I just share it this way, you can kind of see that Negocios Infernales comes with 7 plots. And these are choices that you'll make about what type of game you'll want to play. So what you do depends partly on what you want to do. So my mouse is hovering right now over a royal wedding. Reina Resoluta is getting married, but she's not marrying for love. She's marrying the way that royals often have to, for making peace with a neighboring warlike country, Belair. And the whole point is, does she go through with the wedding? Can she finally marry for love? What actually happens? So sort of like a rom-com set in a castle situation.
Yeah, like each of the seven adventure plots are different genres. It's like,
Okay.
and depending on, because you'll already have gone through character creation, relationships, and world building before you choose your plot. And by the time you get there, you'll probably, as a group of players, have a sense of what kind of game you want to play just from the relationships and the world you've built already. It will lead directly into more obvious choices. There's also a way to randomize it where if you pull a card and you look at the suit, like if it's an Espacio suit, the purple suit, well, we have a matching purple adventure, which is the sci-fi adventure. The purple Espacio suit means space. And it's definitely more like alien technological suit. And so the space, like the Benefactor's Gone Bad, is like a rogue alien sci-fi plot, which is different than the Queen Getting Married plot, which is a sangre plot, like blood and connection and relationships.
And so we have like this one, Monsters Attack. It's your classic aliens weren't careful with some of the creatures they brought with them on their spaceship. One or more of them gets out, and now you're left with cleaning up the mess.
Kaiju battle, that's what we call it.
Yeah, exactly. The Ghosts Know All Your Sins is basically our Scooby-Doo mystery where there are ghosts that have suddenly begun haunting the castle, and they are spreading secrets that the queen would rather you didn't. So figure out if there are real ghosts and how to exorcise them, or if you can unmask them a la Scooby-Doo and figure out, what, part of society is trying to dethrone the queen. We have lots of different plots. We don't have to go through all of them necessarily, but like there's an Alice in Wonderland plot, there's a war plot, there is a plot where the queen goes missing and you're trying to find her. There's just like a bunch of different stories. So you get to figure out, what you want to do with your fellow players. In terms of figuring out how these things will all resolve themselves, I'm just going to draw 4 cards here.
These are your character cards, Dave.
Right. So and we don't mean like if you were creating a character, like these are literally you. Yeah. We are determining now through this Oracle deck what kind of person you are.
Yeah, we're going to judge you based on it as if we were aliens. As if we were, we aren't really aliens.
No, of course we wouldn't be aliens. No. That would be weird.
No, that would be weird. Only aliens behave in a weird alien way, right?
That's what I hear.
So real quick, so you're saying this is not, so I've drawn 1 card for character creation. This is something else than that we're doing right now?
What I'm doing is you have 4 cards total for character creation.
Oh,
your roll in court, which would be this one, the power that you bargained for, and the doom that awaits you.
What was the second one again?
Roll in court.
Roll in court. Got it.
Right. Yeah, it's like your Clark Kent alter ego.
Because remember, before the aliens came, and again, we didn't give you a backstory. So the aliens come right when Espada, the country that you live in as a wizard, but before you're a wizard, a year ago, before the game begins, Espada is on the brink of an inquisition. They're about to make a really terrible ruling about religion. The aliens are like, no, not again, humans. They appear in Reina Resoluta's court and say, hey, we would love to, stop this, and we'll give you phenomenal cosmic powers and just behave yourselves. And the queen mistakes the aliens for devils. She's like, oh, are you devils? And the aliens are like, well, within your worldview, sure, yeah-ish. And the queen's like, well, you give us phenomenal powers in exchange for our immortal souls. And the aliens are like, it's kind of, And so she's like, well, here are some people that I would like to have powers. So you play one of her wizards who's made this bargain a year ago. So you've had these powers for a year. So the first card inspires your motivation. The second, your role in court. So what were you before the aliens came, and what do you still pretend to be to keep you near La Reina if she needs you for a state emergency?
Right. If you're looking at this card, something naval faring seems like a pretty obvious first choice, but you could be a rope maker. You could just choose that little piece of rope that's right there and use that as your focus. Or maybe you're going to choose that glass right there and be like, oh, I'm going to be a silversmith, and I'm the one who does all the pewter and silver.
Or if you were me, you would be her pet mermaid, and you'd be kept in a tank to be shown off to buying things and stuff, and you would just be really tired of being a pet mermaid.
Right.
Can I play too? Yeah. I want to play too.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that I am actually a very accomplished potter, and that's what the wheel is about.
Oh, yes! So you're a potter. Perfect.
Your Majesty's potter. That's awesome. So what are you? What's your motivation for the Sangre card?
Oh! Wow! What am I in for now? I got to do the rest of it. Also, my pottery comes to life. Um,
That would be desire is the reason of
I
reason.
mean, and that's perfect.
well,
That
there's
looks
fire
like
there, so
yeah, exactly. You can bring your pottery to life. Dave, that would be so much fun to play. You would have like all of these little pieces of pottery and like little figures and stuff, and you would cast them.
golems.
Oh my god.
Maybe the queen wants you to make like, was it in China with those human size?
Yeah, the terracotta warrior.
Yeah, maybe she's commissioning you to make her an army.
Yeah.
And the
Oh,
danger with the artist would possess me, and maybe I'm breaking the system here because the magic comes from aliens, but something about the pottery magic threatens to consume me. In my case,
oh,
I'm
no,
changing it
that's
to
fine.
the art would possess you, which is, I assume, okay. Not really the art.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this is like what you want. Like, what is your dream?
Oh, what's my dream? Yeah.
Well, obviously they want
I
you to be a pot.
actually, I would like to transmute my soul into a terracotta type of being and not have to feel feelings anymore because I was abused as a child.
Oh, terrible but great. Oh, I love it.
That's why I
Oh my
vibe with this
gosh.
game, I think. Terrible but great
Oh
is
my
my
gosh,
thing.
like the ultimate disassociation. Oh my
Yes.
god, it's
Yeah,
fun.
exactly. Yeah.
And then so the last one, the fourth, is your doom, and you were almost starting to build it in to your
Yeah.
magic. When you said one day you feel like your art will take care of you. So tell me what your doom is that you think you have to undergo because you've made this bargain.
Yeah, so and again, I don't know how mystical the system really is or how much it accounts for magic outside of what the aliens are doing. But I'll tell you, the thought that comes to mind is to cease loving, plug your nose. So dissociation, ultimately, if it goes too far, is to not to become uh, isolated. And maybe, that kind of love and that reason for living is what keeps the terracotta thing going. And once I completely isolate, the terracotta body could literally fall apart because there's nothing to sustain it anymore from the outside, any kind of connection from the
Oh,
outside.
so I love it. There is a rule to help you here, though.
Okay.
So when you have your doom, it has to be a fate worse than death. So maybe
Oh,
you
okay.
fall apart, but you're still alive. So maybe
Ooh.
what happens is you crumble and then semi-reassemble and have to drag your head around for a while because it won't stay on. But so
Uh-huh.
like you keep falling apart.
Ooh, I
Or
like that.
if your magic is to bring anything that you've made of clay to life, your doom could be everything you've made instantly disintegrates. So especially if in game your magical clay things are actively helping you in that situation and your doom is activated, then suddenly that would be taken away.
Right.
Or if you have armor and it's clay, that would disintegrate. So it'd be something that would happen in game that would affect you and keep happening.
Here's another thing, just based on the card. Maybe once you're inside the terracotta warrior, you can only move when you hold your breath. You can only do anything, in fact, when you hold your breath. So it's like, doom, 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 doom.
That makes that's interesting. It's a good restriction.
Yeah. Anyway, these are all choices, and you would have the final choice, of course. We're just spitballing with you for the purposes of this.
Sure.
You could ask for help. You could even ask for another card to help inspire what result you should get. So we encourage people to like draw cards, commune with people as much as they want or as little as they want, and basically just be inspired. But so here we are. This is your character now. You've basically built a character, and it's actually quite
so compelling.
I mean, I want to see this character in a game. But so let's say you were trying to get past a guard. And basically what you were doing is you have a little terracotta mouse that you're going to send over to the guard, and you're going to try and frighten the guard or get it to chase the mouse. Somehow the mouse is going to get it away. It's going to get the guard away. Imagine then what you have to do is that you have to draw from the deck of destiny, this deck. If you drew this card, which I'll make nice and large.
It's a great card for a guard.
Yeah. So it says, if it unlocks, it's a lockpick, right?
A little terracotta mouse is a lockpick.
Yeah. So this matches suit with the royal card, one of your 4 cards here. Because it matches suit, you succeed.
Oh.
That's it.
So instead of rolling dice and 10 to 20 is a success, or 4 to 6 is a mixed success, it's just if the suit matches during a magic check or a wits check, it's a success.
Right. So in this case, you would use this card to inspire how you succeed. and we'll stop putting you on the spot here, so we're not torturing you. But this actually is a super apropos card for that. So
that just kind of came together.
Yeah. The mouse just jumps in and it turns the line.
The mouse explodes like a cannonball.
Oh my God! On the door. Whatever you decide, it auto works. Like the result is in, so then you just get to have fun narrating how it works. So Let me get rid of the card.
Forgive me, because this doesn't feel like a gamist heavy thing, but the game fan in me wants to know what the odds are of success. I'm curious.
Yeah. So when you first draw. Depends how many players you have, but if you have 4 players and you've each drawn 4 cards, you've taken 16 cards out of the deck. So the math runs something like this. You have 70 card deck, 7 suits. However many cards people have drawn, you've drawn 16 cards out of there. So the distribution matters. If 3 characters have Aire cards, of course, there are fewer. There are only 7 Aire cards left in the deck to actually get those draws. So I think I did math with a mathematician one time. And so we were calculating, if you have 4 players and they share the fewest number of matches among them, you have something like a 55% chance the first time one person draws to get it.
That's good.
But here's the thing. We're going to do a failure next, and you'll see how we try to balance the odds. So if you drew this card, this is a fail because the suits do not match. So in this case, it would narrate how things go completely wrong for you.
And your mouse.
Right. And so death used to be better at killing you. This looks like a pretty big disaster. So if I was going to do something like this, I might do the same thing as you were saying, the mouse actually explodes, but it takes a finger off of the guard, and now they're on super high alert. They're like, "Ooh!" And then
pull that finger off the guard and a toe off of you.
Right. maybe, yeah. So now you're in real trouble. And so we'll show you the way the game works in terms of that. But now, because you failed, you get to temporarily keep this 5th card. These cards always remain, but this 5th card will help you until you get a success. So we're basically trying to even the odds a little bit by saying, okay, well, now you have a 5th card. If you fail again, you'll get a 6th card, and so on until you get your success. Then you go back down to your original 4.
When we played at Gen Con, somebody had 6 of the 7 cards on their table, and they had one final draw, and it was the one card they didn't have, and then the game was lost. That rarely happens, but it's hilarious when it does.
Are you saying then that this card here, which has this bluish purple color suit,
yes,
is now valid to be matched for a success? Is that what it does by hanging around? Okay.
That's
so
exactly
now
right.
It's either suit.
It's any of the 5.
Oh, any of them. Okay.
For the next time you try to do something, use your magic or your wits.
I see.
And another failure, if you get the Hueso card, the bone card.
Let's see if I can draw.
This would be another failure. If you tried again, this would be another failure. It too would be temporarily added. Once you have a success, it wipes out all your temporary cards. You're back to your original character cards.
Oh, that's neat. I like that. That's a nice balance.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a catch-up mechanic in there. This card, just for everybody out there, what the mind wants, it must purchase with its body.
Wow.
So, it's actually the perfect card for the character that you described.
The terracotta man.
Right. So we do tend to talk a lot and get very excited, so we should let you ask a question.
Would Dr. Share?
Oh, yes. Good. Yeah.
Makes you good interview subjects. I'd like to just briefly visit the idea of the story again. I'm curious how, I'm an old grognard, been playing D&D forever, and anytime someone says a GMless system, I'm like, how does that even, I'm not against it in any way, but I'm like, well, how do you even do that? How do you know what scene the game starts in, for example? I imagine that's the story would tell me that, but, how do I move from scene to scene as a player? How do I know which one's the next one? Do they change? It sounds like... I'm also curious if it's freeform. Since there are stories, is the loose plot set, or are they more freeform?
It is definitely not freeform. One of the things that we found is that putting restrictions down creates the opportunity for creativity, and that too much freedom. It's I don't know if we have, since we're talking one grognard to another, we'll make a Simpsons preference. Do you remember the space episode where Homer puts his head through the ant farm and the ants say, "Freedom, horrible freedom."
Yes.
So we try to not have our players experience horrible freedom.
Because we wanted this to be accessible to both players who've never played a role-playing game before, very
Right.
similar to where I was coming from, and players who've done D&D their whole life since they were 13,
Like me.
and play those long games. But also, so there's a lot of room for creative improvisation. There's just, it's like an improv game. There's like the rules of an improv game. In this scene, we have
Right.
a quick start guide, and we have a longer rule book. Probably somebody in your gaming group will have had to have read the rule book and be familiar, or have watched a playthrough, so that they can kind of like loosely lead their group through it.
Okay.
But all the world building, all the character creation, all of that is done collaboratively.
So here is the setup for the role-playing section of the game that's currently going on for the Kickstarter. We have a game with our 4 players, Anna, Brandon, Cass, and Will, and this shows you the progress of their game. It's actually in a very dicey position right now. So every character in the game has to be the protagonist of one scene that they resolved successfully.
Okay.
So you have to play protagonist once. When you're the protagonist, you're basically the DM of that scene. So you set the scene. We have a set the scene card where everybody adds a detail to what's going on in this scene, and then it comes back to the protagonist, who then navigates their wizard through the scene, and at some point is either going to try to use their wits or their magical powers in order to resolve the scene. That's the climax of the scene. However, every player has to play an NPC at least once in the game. So if you need an antagonist for the scene, like the aforementioned guard who's guarding the scene, you'd be like, okay, I'll play the guard, and then you activate this. These are double-sided, so basically you can see that once you play the protagonist, Cass hasn't done that yet, but once you play protagonist, then it gets crossed out to indicate that part of the game is done.
Okay. Wow, that's neat. And that kind of solves the problem, especially with the NPCs of well, obviously, who runs the NPCs, not a GM.
Exactly. Yeah. So basically, anyone who's not the protagonist can be an NPC. People can play multiple NPCs. It's just the protagonist who is free of that duty for that one scene. You'll see that there are order tokens here. In the previous scene, when you chose your plot and you tried to figure out what the queen wanted you to do, which is, again, a very guided exercise with very specific questions to answer, she gives you an order to accomplish. And once you accomplish all the orders La Reina gives you, and once everyone has been protagonist NPC and has used their magic, then the game is won. You have to win the game, however, before you have too many failures. So remember that failure that you have? If you start from the start, if you fail, you move down the Sword of Doom. And this token, which will be, of course, a physical token, and we hit a stretch goal, so it's going to be a metal token.
And it's double-sided.
It will flip to this side that says, "Ay, Dios mío, a complication has emerged." And so now you narrate the complication, and a character other than the person who caused the complication has to use wits or magic in order to resolve it. Once you use your magic, you don't have to be the protagonist to use your magic. You can, but any character can use their magic in scene to resolve it. So that's why these two things are disambiguated. You can use your magic all sorts of times, but every time you fail a check, you go down the sword to the danger here. And so this is the actual game that we're playing right now. We have two protagonists who have to use their powers to resolve. And you can see they still have to use their magic as well. So right now they're in a danger zone, but there's one little caveat. Before you move up to the hilt and lose the game entirely, any character who has not yet done so may activate their doom. So remember the fact that you had decided that your terracotta creator might be trapped forever and start losing touch with the outside world. That would happen in game if the only way to prevent doom was to activate your character's doom. You would roleplay the fact that now you've become a drastically changed person, describe how that happens, live with that doom for the rest of the game, and then continue
and still be an active player the whole time.
Right. Yeah.
So we encourage a doom that won't take you out of roleplay, because you want to still keep playing,
Right. Very interesting. It's making me think of a lot of different things. Like I said, anything that sparks a lot of associations for me gets my interest up. This is a very minor comparison, but that reminds me of a card game that I really love, a cooperative card game, which is Sentinels of the Multiverse. When your superhero dies, your card flips over, and you can still do a little something every turn to help the other characters. I'm
Nice,
also
yeah.
I'm also getting, in a really general sense, I don't know if you all know the game 10 Candles, but in a really
Oh,
loose sense,
yes.
it's far less structured. But in one sense, it reminds me of this because they're both games that I could invite non-RPG player people over to play. But if they're creative, they're going to get sparked by something. What I like about this, especially, is that burden it doesn't burden the player with, like, I pull Medusa out of my head now. It gives me something to work with.
Right.
That also makes me think of a supplement that's I think, yeah, it did just close its Kickstarter from Cubicle 7, called A Life Well Lived. It's for 5e, and it gives you all these little, like, mild mechanical ways to build your character's background that help you more than the backgrounds that are in the book. And so it's like, well, you were a performer, so you get a musical instrument. But why do I have it? What is it? That book kind of helps with that. And that makes me think of that issue often I have, and I'm sure that y'all have experienced it too, with new players in a traditional role-playing game. Where's your character from? Who are their siblings? What are their parents like? You hit somebody with that, like asking them to build that out of whole cloth is a huge ask if they're not somebody who does that. I have written fiction off and on over the years too. I've developed something of an ability to do that, but it's a lot to ask somebody who hasn't, or who hasn't done improv. So I like that there's just a lot of grist there for that. And I think it could build confidence too, dare I say. I think that could really build confidence and creativity. I feel like so many people are afraid to express themselves, afraid to create. They think they're not worthy. But this kind of coaxing and this fun gamification of it seems like a win there too.
That brings us back to the very, very beginning of the game, the pre-game, before we even get into the invocation, which tells the story. We'll get into that. But the pre-game is trust and affirmation. And have a short deck of cards, the 6 trust cards and 6 affirmation cards, which is just like, we will be kind to each other. We will have wild imaginations. Everything we write is right. Take your time. It's all these things. And the last thing is trust the deck. The deck knows. Has been our catchphrase that people pick up on really quick because at least once a game, every game that I've seen, the perfect card at the perfect time is pulled. The one that is like unbelievable. The whole apophenia is working at its finest. Right. The associations are flying. Like the human condition of creating story out of pattern is working real well.
Yeah.
And it's the one of, even though we made the deck and we know all of these things, it still weirds us out every time.
Yep.
Sure.
And then we're talking about, like, how do you know the backstory? Well, we have a little short 17 card deck called the Invocation, which as soon as you do trust and affirmation, everybody takes a card and they read it in number order in a circle. So that's very much like the mechanic in For the Queen, where you tell the story in a circle. It kind of establishes the magic circle of the game. Everybody starts at the same place. A year ago in Espada, nobody knew aliens existed. Like, that's card 1. 2, the aliens came when your queen was about to start an inquisition. That's card 2. So like every card tells the story. The last card is, you are wizards in the court of Reina Resoluta, and this is your story. So that sets the scene for everyone. In the rule book, there is a 1-page fact sheet about the world. If people want to know more, like, it's an aqua super planet, or like it has a sun and 2 moons, or whatever the thing is that you want to know. If you want more detail, you have that. You have a map that you are welcome to add to. And like, there's a few things that you know about the map, but everything else is up for you to make up if you want to.
I'll share the map just now, just to continue that part of the conversation. It is one of my favorite things in the game.
Our cards were all designed by the artist Rebecca Houston, but the map was designed a collaboration between Carlos and our graphic designer Shannon Potratz, who's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, and so the map that you get, but it gives you very little information. You know that your country is right here, Espada, and then you've got these little islands off the top there. But here's a random whirlpool, because that helps role-playing in every situation. Whirlpools are role-playing gold. And then here's island called Piedra, which literally means rock in Spanish. And here's where the pirates hang out, Here's an archipelago that's basically called Blind Eye, Orbit, and Nose, So basically this little haunted face, and basically all it does is it what we wanted it to do was to serve the same purpose an old map with Latin inscriptions would have on it, So the Spanish here is very old-fashioned, and it's obviously created by an Espadan map maker because
it's super biased.
It's Espado-centric.
Yeah. So Mariposa, it's important to know where Pelea is because in the war plot, if you want to do the war adventure, Espada is going to war with Pelea. In the royal wedding, Espada is marrying into the royal house of Pelea. Pelea is an important. You have to know where it is so that you know why in these adventures. Like the 6 things you need to know in this adventure is Pelea. You've been fighting with Pelea for a while. Let's have a war with them, or you've been fighting with Pelea for a while. Let's marry. Mariposas, that island to the south, is like the one thing you know about Mariposas in the rulebook is that it's historically your ally. So Espada and Mariposas are like this. And in the plot, that's like the Wonderland plot where suddenly your ally, you're cut off from them. You don't know what's going on. You hear weird rumors like the cows are giving fire instead of milk. Like the flowers are singing, like go investigate our ally to make sure they're okay. If they're not, let's see if we can capitalize on that, because Espada is very power hungry. It's not the nicest nation.
Colonialist a little bit, maybe? Dare I invoke that word?
A lot of it.
Okay.
We wanted to shrink from Spain in the 15th century. We wanted to examine it,
Yeah, sure.
Poke fun at it a bit.
And the frame story is there to, in a way, say like, hey, we're not cool with this, but this is something that happens. This happens in civilizations. Yeah, that is fascinating. I have one more question. I'm curious about the stories. If I run out of stories, I have people over here every Saturday night, of course, to play this game. They love it. They want to keep playing. Eventually, over the months, we run out of all the stories. What do we do then?
There's a couple things. First of all, because the way the stories go are dependent on how you interpret a card every single time, the stories are, you want to play the adventure plot, for example, the adventure plot of the war with Pelea. The first thing is that here's the basic story. You're going to go to war with Pelea. Then every wizard has a vision, and that answer and every vision creates the actual details of the plot. The war could be for any reason, and that would change depending on your interpretation. And your orders for what to do about it would change depending on your vision. So like all the plots are eminently replayable, but
got it.
We had this idea and we were going to do like a page that would be like a graph of it. We haven't done this yet because it's pretty replayable even as it is. But Carlos and I, we had this idea if we would, if we pulled any 2 cards, you could create a plot out of any 2 cards. So,
So the idea was a 7x7 grid, with each of the 7 suits mapped. So if you drew a soccer card and you drew an Espacio card, that would
Space Pirates.
Right, that might be Space Pirates or something. That would be
okay.
That's all it would say. And then as a group, you would come up with questions for each other. Okay. So instead of having pre-written questions, you would say like, okay.
Then you'd be like, you be the queen and ask a question for your wizard to have a vision about. So you'd kind of the template is there with all of, and it's a short template, 6 questions. And 6 story cards and 6 questions. So once you know those templates, then the players can make up the 6 story cards about why space pirates, and then the 6 questions the queen is asking her wizards of like, where did the space pirates come from? Can you get to the space pirates planet?
What do they want?
What do the space pirates want?
Yeah.
Do we have a flying ship that can do we have a weapon that can fight the space pirates?
Right.
And the wizard may have a vision of, yes, we can find the weapon to fight the space pirates in the giant whirlpool off of Espada.
Right.
Like that. So it really is very malleable.
Right.
Okay.
And so, but the more important thing to say is like, we've played this game a million times and we've never had the same plot. Even if we played, like people tend to like a royal wedding when they start,
especially newcomers.
Yeah, newcomers. And just statistically, I think I've played that one 50% of the time, and then the other spread with the rest of the 50%. But I've never played the same royal wedding ever, just because of the way the players engage with the questions, the kind of reina that they create.
And who their wizards are. Their wizards are what? Sometimes it's like a cast of villains, they're wizards. And sometimes they're all just trying to get along, and then there's a mix sometimes and they're at odds with each other.
Interesting. So their story frames more than they are detailed set stories.
Exactly. You're all the DMs. You're all actually creating the details. It's more like genre with some details to hang the improv on.
Right. Very similar.
Cool.
Well, not very similar. Somewhat similar to Fiasco in that, when you look at the plots for Fiasco, they're very simple, but you can do almost anything within those plot frames.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
And the other thing is in the world building section. So you go, trust and affirmation is pregame. The invocation where you set the scene, create your wizard, which we did with you. Relationships where now everybody's created their wizard. You choose one other wizard that your wizard has a relationship with, and you draw a card, and there's a deck for that you match the suit to, like star-crossed or collegiate or sinned together or childhood companions. And then you kind of talk out what that relationship could be. You write it down. The other wizard can either draw again to have a relationship with you or with somebody else. And their relationship with you might not be the same relationship that you have with them. Wow. So after relationships, we get into world building, which is a deck of 40 cards with questions. But the first question is, who is your Reina Resoluta? And so there's one card drawn for the queen, and everybody adds one detail about who your queen is. And who your queen is greatly influences the rest of the game because she's in charge of you. You might hate her, you might want to depose her, or you might love her, or you might have a lot of feelings about her, and it depends on who the queen is. And then every player draws just one question out of a 40-card deck to answer. And the question might be, what is strange about Espada's water? Or what is the main import? Or where do Espadans like to go outside of the country for like vacation? And you draw that question, and then you draw a card from the Destino deck to inspire the answer. So by the end, you know who your queen is, and you know 4 things about your world that is yours alone. But those 4 things make the world feel so deep and real. And by that time that's done, after wizards, relationships, world building, it's almost the adventure that you want to play almost picks itself at that point.
Wow, that sounds very cool. I've got all my questions out. I have one thing I want to finish up with, unless there's anything else that you guys want to cover.
Oh, happy to hear what you got.
Okay. I'm interested in, Claire, I think you mentioned something to me, and I have to admit I glanced at it because I've had an insanely busy week with a huge Halloween party and all these things going on.
Hey, happy Halloween!
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's Halloween until Thanksgiving, and then it's still kind of Halloween until Christmas. I mean, that's what happens in this household.
It's also Halloween. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me more. But I think you mentioned something to me when we were messaging back and forth about sessions where you use the deck to structure writing ideas, just for fiction writing. I'm interested in hearing a little bit about that too. That sounds amazing.
We call them infernal salons because this is Negocios Infernales. But so the game, as you see, is highly structured, has its own thing going on, and the card deck is just one part. It's the mechanical part. It's the dice part of it in this diceless game, our deck. But the deck by itself is super beautiful. And when we thought about all the different suits, what makes a human: blood, bone, breath, lightning or spark, air, tears, and flesh, plus everything that's outside of the human experience, which is espacio, space. We thought about that, and for each of the 10 cards in each of the 7 suits, we thought deeply about what do we want to say about flesh or carnality or blood and relationship. And so we created these weird adages, so that we have 70 adages. Like one of the carne, the flesh cards, is trees eat meat, because they actually kind of do. There's a lot of burials with trees, and then you can see the bones inside the rings and things like that. It's like a true thing in the world, but also it's very creepy to just say trees eat meat.
It is.
And of course, the art that Beck drew for that is incredibly evocative. So what we do in an Infernal Salon is we invite writers, poets, musicians, artists. Yeah, we had a nail artist yesterday on our Halloween.
Cool.
They each get a draw from 1 to 3 cards. They get 25 minutes on a timer. and go. They write something or create or draw or compose. We had a musician yesterday, and 25 minutes later, beep, the timer goes off. Everybody shares something new, raw, and always wonderful. Not perfect, but
Not finished.
not finished, but incredible for that time period. We've gone to libraries, we've gone to college classes, we've done it at cons, we've done it online, we've done these Infernal Salons, and because the cards are a bit PG-13 and above, we have not really done it for children, though using the Dixit cards would work because the Dixit cards are very gentle. They might have like a ladybug climbing through a house with a weird flower with teeth. They might be slightly creepy, but they're age appropriate. Whereas like this is more Mysterium level. There's some dark stuff going on. But anyway, it's lovely. The Infernal Salons are some of my favorite. I love the world building deck, and I love an Infernal Salon because so far of the dozens we've run, it's never not worked. And right during COVID and just after, you've had these writers who've written all their life and had not been able to write for the 2 years of intense isolation, and it kind of like broke them out of it. People who don't feel confident writing to prompts, who've never liked it before. There's something about the camaraderie, the prompts, and other writers, all or creators at the same time. It's celebratory. It's very intimate. It's very community binding. So we've really enjoyed it. We've really enjoyed it. We've loved the people coming to us and like getting so excited about just the deck by itself. We love our game. We love our game, but we also love what the cards can do outside our game.
Yeah, they're requiring a life of their own, it sounds like. Yeah, that's amazing. That's what it was. I think you had invited me to one of those, and I wasn't able to. Forgive me for not giving you a definite answer, but I wasn't able to do it. But I would love to join another one of those sometime. That sounds amazing.
Sure, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, I mean, we have them periodically, and I believe me, I throw out dozens of invites because I know that people are so busy, and Zoom is not easy. And so, like, we had a dozen last night. We had about 90 minutes to 2 hours, and we wanted to go short because our friend whose Twitch stream we're on goes trick or treating with his kids. So I was like, we can do it in 90 minutes, but the way we kept it short was that for every 3 people, we gave them 3 cards so that we weren't drawing 3 cards individually for everyone. So we had 4 sets of 3 cards, which was really cool because as you started hearing them read what they were, like how there were some similar themes sometimes if they had the same draw, but also wildly different stories and poems from it. Like it was really cool. It was a neat thing that we might do again sometime.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. It has been delightful talking with you. The Kickstarter will still be going by the time I post this. How many days are left in it?
9 right now.
9. So it'll be November 8 when 10th. I post this. Oh, okay.
Yeah, November 10th it ends, and I don't know, does it end the same time that we started it, like at 9:30?
10 p.m. I think. Yeah.
Okay, so great. So
there
the Friday night, Eastern. The 10th.
Okay, great. Thanks again for your time. Great talking with you.
Thanks for having us.
So wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and although my catchphrase doesn't directly apply to a Diceless game like this, I always give it to all our viewers. May all your 20s be natural.
Hey.
This is where I beg for likes and subscribes. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down there. Let us know what you think about this system. Feel free to share ideas that some of the images we saw during the video sparked in your mind. And until next time, may all your 20s be natural.